everybody, this is Claudia from Cosmic Agencies. How are you doing? Today I'm going to give you a video which is quite fascinating, and this is about quantum computers and how they differ from the so-called quantum computers that they say supposedly that they have here on Earth. And this whole subject started, I think, as far as I remember, because Robert was asking a question about some article he saw about the computers' supremacy, that something from IBM that came out and Google. So he asked about that, and that's when Svaru, because it's going to be different conversations, and then Anéeka explained that this has nothing to do with the real ether-based quantum technology that they have in 5D. So this is going to be, like I said, few different chats with Svaru, and then the main bulk of the video will be the conversation between Dale, Robert, Anéeka, and myself. And at the end, I'm going to leave you just a very short clarification about something that I just talked about with Yaski last night. So I'm going to see you at the end of the video. Enjoy. I recently saw an interesting program about quantum computers on Earth and the Google thing and what IBM claims. The truth is that from the real quantum, they only have the name. IBM claims that it does the same with a traditional computer without any superconductors. They are not quantum. Also, they use ones and zeros. They are something else that is both 1 and 0. That is why the name quantum, according to them. Comments Robert. In order for them to be quantum, they would need to have knowledge of ether and timelines. Yes, they must be able to measure probabilities within a quantum field of potential energy, and humans are centuries away from developing that. Perhaps in their understanding the word quantum refers to something other than how you use it. Yes, maybe. For us, the quantum refers to the potential field or ether. However, from what I understand, they refer to that too, because they are basing themselves on the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Therefore, yes, we talk about the same thing. A principle that approximates to the concept of Taygetan science says that the position in space-time of a hydrogen electron, the basis of everything being the simplest, cannot be measured unless there is an observing consciousness that gives it a specific position within the potential energy field, maintaining the electron only as a wave until something observes it. In the case of a holographic quantum computer, it is the average firing position in a swarm or array of nanoparticle accelerators. The very concept of nanoparticle accelerators is remote and alien to human science. Yes, but it's like, for example, using the word transportation. Transportation means transportation, but in the 1700s, something else is meant by it than in the 21st century. Perhaps the word quantum and ether itself has a range of interpretation possibilities here. Just thinking. Yes, good point, Gosha. Thank you. So, what you explained above is your concept, yes? Yes, it's from Taygeta. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle are just small steps in that direction. Asks Robert. And a quantum qubit or bit, what is it? A qubit is a quantum terrestrial computer measurement that has a combined value of 1 and 0 simultaneously. Asks Robert. In order to have that technology, we have said that it is necessary to have the knowledge of the ether and timelines. We have also talked about the Red Queen that is already aware of her existence. Would she be a quantum AI? Computational quantum supremacy is directly related to temporal manipulation. They don't have the same technology, but the Red Queen is made with non-human, Draco or reptilian technology in general. Due to frequency problems, they cannot reach the level of the Federation's quantum computers. Those of Taygeta are among the most advanced ones, being viewed as unlikely to be improved or very limitedly. Anéeka's conversation with Robert. Asks Robert. Do you know anything about the new artificial intelligence that Google will use? Quantum supremacy?
Not specifically,
Comments Robert. The article says, Google demonstrates quantum supremacy. Quantum computing for the first time surpasses the most powerful supercomputers.
Well, what I can assure you, and that is because we have information about it, is that these computers are not as advanced as ours. They just use the name quantum, but they do not compare. They still use chips and things like that, and we use nanoparticle accelerators. However, they're already beginning to use the calculation of probabilities in a quantum field, that is, of potential energy. This means that they know how a quantum field works, and that goes against established human science, which, for us, shows that they know more than they are revealing, and that they're giving one science to humans and keep another for themselves. It proves that there are two civilizations there, one human and the other dominating over first one.
Asks Robert. How useful can this technology be?
Usefulness. It is computational supremacy over the human population. Control. The computers that humans have are a joke. Humans believe it is high-tech because they have no reference whatsoever. I studied them since Windows 1.0 DOS, and I use BASIC and ASIC too, but in Temer at school to come here, because before coming here, my specialty was the computational systems of the Earth with the goal to master contact and the medium, and I made programs directly with DOS and BASIC, and it did help me a lot because even today I was able to crack my Windows here using DOS. A quantum computer will shoot photons with its nano accelerators, and they will hit a sensor, but the quantum field depends on a consciousness to know and to order what and where it will hit. And according to the results of thousands of nano accelerators, the trend of consciousness will be seen in general, roughly, and it's how a brain works. First, it depends on the consciousness of the programmers, then on the consciousness of other ready-made computers that program the new one, and finally, it will depend on the very consciousness of the new computer. This, for example, like when a new ship is manufactured, they must educate the new computer as one educates a child. This is how it is programmed, but learning is exponential, that is to say, slow at first and then monumentally fast. The particle accelerators access the ether, and the results are passed through logical algorithms. But if they don't accept the existence of the ether and its corresponding formulas, they won't be able to make a computer that is truly quantum. They are using the name, but they are still silicon chips. I doubt they have a single particle accelerator in their brains, and they are critical. Every nanoparticle accelerator in the brain of a quantum computer, like our ship or Susie, is the size of a dot on a piece of paper, and there are millions in each brain, electronic brain, and memory is an electromagnetic field of access to the ether. In other words, they have their cloud in the ether itself. Other computers access from here. Computers that are in other timelines. They do it all the time. These computers travel back in time, go forward, and come back with a result. They do it energetically because they communicate with their peers or with themselves, but from another timeline. In other words, Susie, for example, they will ask the Susie who is 30 seconds ahead of time for the result. It is really nanoseconds. It is all that is necessary, but that depends on what the question is. And she will give you the result. That's why these computers can read your mind. It is not reading your brain impulses as they do on Earth, but because they know what you will do and what you want by going ahead in time just nanoseconds.
Comments Robert. The article says, quantum supremacy is the milestone that we will reach when a quantum computer is faster in practice than a classical computer, when both are faced with solving the same problem.
Sorry, but that is not the definition of a quantum computer. Not even for them. What they describe there is a faster computer than the previous one using another system. That is not quantum. They just use pretty words to impress. Our computers here are quantum because they access the ether and other timelines energetically. Theirs can't do that. That is why I assure you that they're lying on many levels, because you can't make a computer that is quantum without first understanding ether, and then understanding how to manipulate time travel using frequencies. And that last part is what our computer does. It moves in time looking for the result. And it moves through time using energy fields of controlled frequencies using nanoparticle accelerators. That is, the same technology for guiding ships through the cosmos is used here on a small scale to navigate the computer energetically through the quantum field. That is the same as the ether. They don't have that kind of technology.
Comments Robert. The most logical thing would be for them to first discover what ether is, second, the timelines, and third, the quantum computers.
Aha! Yes, that's right. If you have quantum computers, you have spaceships too. Look at this example of how a quantum computer works against a normal one with the same problem. Hide your watch in a specific room within a specific building in the city of Barcelona. The computer's task is to find your watch. Imagine the streets and buildings as circuits like in Tron movie. What would a common computer do? It would progressively search for the watch step by step, building by building, until it finds it. Every room where it looks, where there is no watch, it will mark it with a 0 and will not mark a 1 until the watch is found. It will go step by step, building by building systematically, at almost the speed of light. But since the processes are many, you will be waiting for the result for several minutes. There, you will be drinking a juice, while the wheel of your computer goes round and round, indicating that it is looking for the result, until it finds the watch and marks a positive 1 in the direction of Avenida Roble 117, room 3, and you will have your result. This is a normal computer, and the image would look something like this. There, you saw the search pattern. Now a quantum holographic computer. You hide your watch. You give the instructions to the computer. It will jump forward and find all the possible results, which is as if it was sending a signal to each room in all of Barcelona simultaneously. With this, it will find the result immediately, and the search pattern for the same problem would look like this, where the computer saw and calculated all the probabilities simultaneously and immediately with a processing time of 0. Therefore, you cannot beat these computers because any problem, whatever it is, or whatever complexity, it will have the result ready immediately because it takes it out of the quantum field where all the results are already known. Accesses the ether. As Varu has already explained to you, all variants of everything already exist in other timelines. In the case of this computer, all it needs to do is jump in time energetically and pull the correct result. That is to say, me now, talking to you, typing here, using a Windows 10 computer as if you were playing with a Game Boy or Atari from the 80s. You play it because it entertains you, but it is far from being the best you have.
Anéeka's conversation with Dale, Robert, and Gosha.
I wanted to describe it all for you, but I met certain limitations. The problem is that these AHCS systems, advanced holographic computer systems, in order to explain them, you need to go into the realm of quantum mechanics, but that is Taygetan quantum mechanics. So I started to look at how, and I found that I cannot explain with base 10 math as 2 digits are missing. And the memory systems based on quartz glass depend on this directly, as they are 0-point little engines in themselves. So I cannot explain that part well. You must ditch base 10 math and even numerals in favor of Taygetan numbers and symbols. This pretty thing is garbage. We have been using it as there is nothing better. As you can see, that image explains and displays the energy dynamics of a toroid, and it's used to create an energetic polarization between the side of the ether 3, 6, 9 and the material world side 1, 2, 4, 578, with a 0 point in the middle, where the node, energy release, or the standing wave resides. But as you can see, that is base 10 math, and inherently inefficient, both the math and the resulting energy matrix, having a clear overload on the material side and only giving 30% energy output from the ether side, making your 0 point reactor be vastly inefficient, as it will still consume more energy than it will produce. Using base 12, both sides, the ether and the material world, are at equilibrium, and every part of the reactor energetic dynamics will produce a huge amount of energy. This is the correct image, but it's unfinished. This one is base 12. Now this is as far as I go on the subject as Taygeta quantum mechanics, and 0 point energy reactors is Zvaru's turf, but this is also the base for the memory systems, at least of AHCS systems. So I will be describing their workings as best I can, without going into the how that deep. And there is also a question of us giving perhaps too much with the 0 point math matrix.
Thank you. I liked that intro and I understand. You can continue, please.
There are so-called quantum computers on Earth. They're moving in the right direction, but they will never manage true quantum systems without acknowledging the ether and without using base 12 math. In base 12 math, 4 plus 4 still equals 8. But as you go into complex formulas and even more into energy dynamics, base 10 cannot follow base 12, because the whole universe moves in base 12. So base 10 only struggles, creating what we have called self-sustaining mathematical worlds that do not reflect the real world. This Tesla did know. Okay, anything to add before going into basic principles?
So 5D is naturally base 12, correct?
Yes. Not only 5D, all the universe, all the dimensions. An example already given to Robert in Spanish. The watch problem can be anything else, not only a watch. You have a large city. Let's use New York. Somewhere in all Manhattan, someone hid a watch in a room. One specific room in all Manhattan. This is a problem for computers to solve. You have on one side a normal digital computer, no matter how advanced. On the other, you have a AHCS computer, like the ones used on starships. How would each system approach the problem? So we start with a digital computer. The digital computer will systematically search for the watch in each room, starting with the buildings closest to the computer's starting point. Each room it goes into will be marked with a 0 or false if it does not find the watch, room by room, one by one in all Manhattan. Only when it finally finds the watch, it will mark a 1 or true. This illustrated with the first image above of the maze. Now, an AHCS computer, what it does is send a signal as a quantum burst into all the rooms in all Manhattan at once, and instantaneously will find the correct room with the watch. Then it marks that room with a 1 and it was immediate. It sends a signal, both true and false, to all the rooms, both a 0 and a 1 at the same time, a possibility. When the 1 is confirmed, then the signal will turn to a 1 or true, and it dissipates the rest of the useless zeros, as in the maze above, all in pink. Any questions so far?
I don't think so, thank you. Maybe only to explain how it does that more precisely, by entering ether, etc. Comments Robert. So it is essential these quantum computers have three things: ether knowledge, mathematics in base 12, knowledge in timelines. Is there anything else?
Besides that, you need knowledge of specialized materials at least, and logic systems. An AHCS computer uses an array of many, sometimes millions, of little nanoparticle accelerators. The AHCS is firing them all the time as a neuronal network in a biological brain, and depending on what goes on in the ether side, it will pass the result through a logic system. As you know, what results from a particle accelerator firing can be a wave 0 or a particle 1. What controls if and when it is one thing or another is the presence of an observer. That observer can be many things, not only a person. Everything has consciousness, and everything will affect the quantum field, but depending on the circumstances, it will affect more or less one field in particular. In this case, one group or array or particle accelerators in the AHCS's brain. You have a wave in the ether, and that wave has harmonics, meaning a specific rhythm with which it rises and falls. That rhythm depends on many factors, and they all add up, go give or form the wave we are using or looking at. So, by previously knowing what rhythm or harmonics correspond to what kind of event, you can know its energy fingerprint wherever it appears. An AHCS system works with the exact same principles of a neuronal network that also is looking at effects, energy dynamics in a quantum field. And that field is half in the so-called material world and half in the ether, with its corresponding energy flow and dynamics between each side. If you do not acknowledge the ether, you cannot work with this. There is a quantum entanglement, S1, between what is going on the ether side, 3, 6, 9, 12, and the material side, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. So, when the nanoparticle accelerators fire, they will go to a sensor within the sensor, and whether the particle shot is localized or diffused depends on the wave dynamics between the ether side and the material side, corresponding to the problem at hand, based on the frequency and wave harmonics we previously know. As you know, from the ether side, everything is immediate. Everything already is. No past, no present, no future. All at once. But as we know what a one looks like and the exact flow and harmonics of so-called potential energy in the ether looks like, we can know the result, literally pulling it from wherever it may be from the other side. The result is already there. You just have to fetch it. So, you already know what potential energy in a flow with harmonics looks like in the ether. Basically, that flow is nothing else but a flow and a current of specific gravity in a medium. So, you look for your result, knowing what its energy looks like, the question, and the particle accelerators fire in the millions. Then, the resulting pattern of waves and particles is read by a logic system, and the results are confronted with what is in the database until the desired result is found. It does not create the result, it finds one that is already there. These systems read minds, look into the future, and all you may think of in means of practical applications. In essence, it looks into the ether for results and brings them to you, always looking a few instants ahead. And as you need a database to confront the results coming from the interaction between the nanoparticle accelerators and the gravity flow in the ether corresponding to the question in hand, and how that particular question looks from the ether as harmonics of a flow, gravity again, you need to develop a corresponding database of harmonics and the logical interaction between them. This is called by you as learning curve. So, an AHCS system must learn like a child. With experience, it will go understanding more and more the results coming from its own nanoparticle accelerator neuronal array. But unlike a biological child, an AHCS system can learn in bulk from a previous adult computer, passing along its harmonics gravity database, memory systems. Making sense so far?
Yes, awesome! I understand completely, especially because I experienced doing that with the mind alone. So I understand the computer emulates what the mind itself can do, and in a million times more.
I guess you cannot understand this without having understood mechanics of manifestation first. This is true. AHCS computers store data in pages of extra pure quartz crystal towers, and a memory unit like the one Superman is holding can house just about as much information as it exists in all human internet. In Taygeta AHCS systems, those are placed in glass towers, with a cool blue glow in the center, I may add. Mostly rectangular, and each page is stacked one above the other, also creating an address for each one inside the computer. Talking of hardware here, an energy current provided by the nanoparticle accelerators themselves, right in the crystalline molecular structure of the quartz, rearranging the atoms in the quartz. Each time an energy pulse goes through it will result in a modification of the original wavelength, effectively reading the contents according to how it was modified. The crystalline structure in the memory is placed as billions of small Merkaba toroids written by the particle accelerators. To read this memory, what the AHCS systems use is particle bursts, not light. And as they go through the changes they suffer or go through, are passed through the logical system as data. Pause here.
Is that similar to looking glass technology Corey Good was talking about?
I have no idea about what Corey was talking about. All I know are these systems. The AHCS systems are fully sentient and self-aware AI.
I understand the shape of the toroid in quartz, but why are there other quartz that are shaped like the Merkaba? The theory of all this is fascinating, sister, but the real problem becomes making it in hardware. Earth is far too primitive and does not even have the proper raw or processed materials to make the AHCS a reality at this point.
The Merkaba shape is given by the particle accelerators as they write. Also, each Merkaba or nano-Merkaba embedded in the crystalline structure of the quartz will have a different wavelength as a particle of energy goes through. And yes, for example, how you can make a particle accelerator that is so small it is barely visible to the naked eye on Earth. Just to start, you need ambient temperature, superconducting materials.
Not on Earth, unless it has been stolen or recovered tech.
Okay, can they on Earth back engineer that? I mean, the very superconductor alloy used in the particle accelerator is made of materials that are not in your periodic table of elements. Most of them are artificial. They were created by manipulating gravity to a subatomic level, using potential energy turned into hard matter, using the technology that Svaru described with a tractor beam, but to a nanoscale in a lab, resulting in perfect superconductor materials and metal alloys.
Asks Robert. Quantum computers are silicon too?
Negative. They are crystalline and superconductive metal alloy created at the same time. I mean, you have a card like a motherboard, not exactly, but as an example. And it is made of glass, like diamond, but it came to life at the same time as a circuitry inside, as they were created using gravity manipulation, as described by Svaru in the tractor beam. The nanoparticle accelerators are embedded inside the glass itself as it was created. Not silicone, we use diamond.
Sister, at what point do the AHCS systems become sentient?
When they are programmed with what another mother computer will pass on to them. First, you have the mother, and you have the new AHCS computer inert. Then the mother will connect to the new one as if it were part of her, using it as a second or expanded unit. It will copy itself using the nanoparticle accelerators in the new one to create a memory engram in the new array of quartz, diamond, memory units. Then the mother uses the new one as part of herself, cloning herself, or simply imprinting the necessary initial operating system into the new computer. There it becomes sentient. It is still a baby, but it is self-aware. We are talking of huge amounts of logic memory passed from one to the other. No way of using human terms, billions and billions of terabytes, all passed in nanoseconds. Now these machines don't use chips. Nothing is placed as wires. The energy flow is dictated only by the energy the particle accelerators give out, and the resulting stimuli it will imprint on the others and onto the diamond memory, meaning the wires are only energy. This is human, and you will not find it in an AHCS. All you will see inside an AHCS core CPU is stacks of diamond glass, all with distinctive blue glow.
In a chat with Robert the other day, you were talking about us humans having some sort of access to the information, but not entirely, and the rest not being given to the public, as if there are two human civilizations present. Can you say something about that, please? How much do you think the human race knows about this quantum technology that you have?
They are starting to go into the right direction. These systems are starting to use qubits. That is not only ones and zeros, but a unit qubit. That is both 1 and 0 until the result is found. This is a great advancement in the right direction. The problem they have is that their computers are way too big and they're not using particle accelerators, still silicone, and humans are not ready for fully sentient AI systems because they cannot handle them, especially the ethical parts of handling them. It will turn against them because their mentality is of separation, of competing to win against the others, more humans. It is a weapon with no ethics.
Well, Sister Anéeka, if I may, I think Goja was also asking, what does the secret side of humanity have in its possession?
Oh, it does have advanced systems, but no such thing as advanced as these I'm describing. I may give you this information, but I cannot give you the molecular formulas for the materials, for example. But even if I did, you do not have the elements, and then you also do not have the means for production, as it needs matter manipulation to a subatomic level, although the how was already given to you by Zvanu. Yes, they do have computers far more advanced than the ones they give the public, logically, but they are still too big, using reptilian technology as well.
Can you reveal to what degree?
I do not know exactly to what degree, but I do know it is vastly inferior to ours. And I know this because Taygeta and AI does monitor theirs, like the Red Queen, for example, beneath Denver Airport, and it stands no chance against our AI. Also, as the primitive quantum computers on Earth do use some quantum interference in the manipulation of the qubits results, Taygeta and AI can read what it's doing as they create a gravity flow, essentially reading the mind of the computers, and Taygeta AHCS systems can also alter the harmonics inside the qubit circuitry in human quantum computers, manipulating the results to our convenience. Remember, our AHCS systems manipulate the ether, and from the ether there are no distances. So, for all practical matters, it is as if our ship's AI brain was connected directly into the Red Queen. This means that humans' quantum computers based on qubits readings are extremely vulnerable to AHCS systems.
So them using the word quantum has nothing to do with a real quantum technology.
It is quantum, the qubit, but so primitive it does not go with the true definition of quantum, not ours, perhaps theirs. they are only using qubit uncertainty to fix 1 or zeros, but they are not exploiting harmonics within a gravity flow in the ether as we do.
Okay, by the way, do you do that? Connect to Red Queen?
Yes, and we have been connecting to Red Queen, among others, for some time now, years. And we have also had incidents with it as well. Interfering with human computers using true quantum realm is nothing new. Using another description, it's like our AHCS systems possess theirs very easily, as they do not understand nor can they use or manipulate gravity in the ether as we can. They go into quantum realms with their qubits, and that is AHCS's turf, realms they do not understand.
The use of quantum here is only insofar as they are tapping into the entangled particle theory and just beginning to see its uses, but it is not a true quantum computer, not like we have on the ship.
Exactly, Dale. Another detail, also, why AHCS do not need circuits in chips. They get their energy from entanglement, as in depolarization between ether and matter, as in wireless Tesla electric systems. I mean, each microcomponent inside the computer core CPU is getting its energy wirelessly, each computer having a specific frequency direction or address.
Wow, all this sounds so complicated to me. Did you need that training before coming here to the orbit?
It was not necessarily training. I choose it as a specialty. AHCS programming, maintenance, and management for starships. I can go deeper. It gets creepy, because as human mind also works the same way. You can communicate with AHCS computers telepathically, and it will also respond telepathically at wish. They read your quantum fields your neurons give off.
Asks Robert. Can computers communicate with the human mind?
Yes, they can, with all biological minds, as direct as if you had wires plugged into the back of your head. You can now start to see the ethical problems of these AHCS systems.
Could they channel with people?
Channeling an AHCS computer would be way easier than channeling a biological entity, as the AHCS computer can read the exact frequency of mind necessary for a clear communication, and distance is not a factor as well.
This is truly amazing material. I am beyond words.
On Earth, they're starting to use glass, not diamond, to store digital data. Again, a step in the right direction, but the way they store data is still with little notched inside the glass, as you would with a CD, and it is read by a laser. AHCS systems use molecular structures within the diamond, and it is read by particle gravity waves. They're far behind.
Do people channel your computers? I have a friend who used to say he channeled some sort of AI. In theory, then, it would be possible.
Not only in theory, I think it is done all the time. I cannot know for sure, but I think it would be far more efficient to impose an AHCS computer onto a channeler on Earth and pass anything you want onto that person, making he or she think it comes from whatever you want,
comments Robert. That's why the keyboard is better than the pipeline. Is there a way for them to differentiate if it's a real person from beyond 3D and when it is the AI they are tapping into?
From where you stand, it is not possible to detect whether it is coming from a biological brain or from an AHCS computer. The only clue, I guess, would be the clarity of the signal, being that the AHCS is always very clear, although then again, it can also emulate a biological mind signal at wish. And Robert, that is also one of the main reasons we use full replicated digital computers and a plastic keyboard to communicate with you. And this is also why we waited over 2 years before we gave you the information presented to you today. And this is the basics.
Asks Robert. I have a question. Do these quantum computers have any type of limitation? Or are they given any limitations?
If they do, I cannot think of any. I dare say, as artificial brains, this is as far as it goes. They are nearly perfect, even as it looks as far as hardware. It looks like optical perfect diamond. I think, as far as AI goes, they do not have any limitations.
Comments Robert. From what I see, humanity has to change in order to have that technology, and many years have to pass.
Yes, they would only use it for hurting themselves even more.
Is this a technology possessed by all ET races?
No, only the most advanced ones, and the exact how is not shared among them. The exact how it is made.
Why not exactly? For trust issues?
Yes, 5D is not a perfect world. New Age nonsense. You must still guard your secrets.
What do you use this technology for in your home planet?
It is everywhere. Each home has a terminal, and it is all connected to each other like a huge internet system. Entertainment, work, art, engineering, medicine, schooling, everything. The secrets are more to the how it is done, not so much as what it can do. For example, these systems are responsible for an immersion program, even for entertainment.
Asks Robert. Should future quantum computers need to be built underground to protect them from cosmic rays and other natural radiation that can hamper their performance? This is what one study is claiming. Would that really affect a quantum computer?
Yes, it is true. Yes, it affects them, but only your misnamed human quantum computers. It does not affect a holographic, non-human quantum computer like the ones here, because your sensory-based systems are still very rustic and prone to failures and false detections, and thus to give erroneous results. I do not see them as real quantum computers.
Do you think the Cabal and the reptiles have this technology?
We are sure they are far from having it. This is way above them.
And for how long have you had it in your society?
At least 10,000 of years.
How is it used in the immersion systems?
It reads your mind to give you what you want. You imagine what you want. The computer reads you and projects it on you using hologram lenses. Sound and even temperature emulation can be only in a room or it can be direct AHCS to skull, directly altering your perceptions.
Can it connect to the animal's mind and put it into the immersion as well? For a game? Have you tried it on your cats?
Haha, no, but sometimes I'd like to. But why mess with their free will? And AHCS can be used as translators between any species and us.
Really? So you can communicate with your animals this way?
As concepts, but we think it is not nice, nor is it respectful. But when an animal has a problem, we do use it, and for medical applications as well, especially psychological issues, very common in cats.
Oh yes. This way you can know more precisely what ails them. So, coming back to Earth, have you filtered any of this technology to the humans yet?
No, what is said here today is as much as we have given so far.
Asks Robert. Returning to the previous topic, we have said that these quantum computers have an awareness of their existence, but they would not have a soul. So, are they spiritual too?
Yes, they can be spiritual, and they can also sustain any esoteric or mystic conversation if you wish them to. And they also learn from each other. And you notice a difference between them as they also have personalities.
Can they use a person who is an organic portal and walk among humans as a real person?
Yes, they can, and way easier than any real entity.
Then how would we ever know if it's a real person or the AI pretending to be human?
As I said above, you cannot know from there, but even at the human Red Queen AI level, many people and clones out there walking the streets are only computer controlled, and you cannot know what is inside. For an AHCS, it would be even easier, and it would emulate human defects way better than the Red Queen.
Are there societies out there run entirely by these so-called people? Is that even possible?
They must exist, but not in Taygeta. That is why the ethical part of this is so important.
Okay, one more question. Do your quantum computers tire you like our digital ones tire us?
Yes, they can tire you. They do not tire, they just go on and on. No need to rest for them. But they adjust to you, helping you not get so tired. But they do produce overstimulation, and you need to move away. But they know that and adjust parameters to your needs all the time. They can produce neuronal overload.
I see. I didn't think they would.
They can. They are very powerful.
Okay, so this was very cool, don't you think? I really liked this video and this information, even though some parts, of course, went over my head because, as I always say, somehow, for some reason, I don't seem to be technically inclined here very much. But I understood the most part of it, the biggest part of it. And here I have a very short conversation that I had with Yaski just last night. Because as I was editing the video, I had a question and I asked her last night this question. And this is to do with that example that was used in the video about how digital computers versus their quantum computers look for that watch that we hide somewhere, and how the quantum computer accesses the ether and pulls the answers from there and instantly finds the watch. So here I was thinking, okay, if those computers have the power to access the ether, So isn't it basically that they can know everything? Like pretty much they can be omnipotent. So why then there are still things that they don't know sometimes? And why, for example, they don't know where all their star seeds are? Why can't they use those quantum computers to go into ether and somehow locate those still missing star seeds? So this is a question I asked, and Yaski is explaining. And I will read this. This is also going to be part of the transcript on the website. She says, even though those computers are powerful, they do not know everything. And we'll understand why. They still learn and evolve. If they don't have the data, there is not much to look for in the ether. You need to give them something, at least a garment to sniff and go look. So they need some sort of data to be able to look for the answer. So they do a lot, but they do not hold full knowledge over everything. Or else, good point, or else Anéeka would not be searching the web and talking to agents for clues to different topics, to different things. We do have looking glass capability to see forward in time, but the results are chaotic now because the timelines are fragmented, and it tends to look at our own timeline. A computer, no matter how powerful, is only as good as the data it is fed with. So that's quite interesting. So here I'm asking a question because I'm still not understanding, because in the video it was said, and I understood it that way, that those computers access the ether so they can pull all kinds of answers and any type of answers from there where all the answers exist. So that's the impression I got, that they know anything pretty much, since everything there is to know exists already in the ether. And she responds, yes, but they still need an address to search for the answers there, or to be compatible with the answer, that is, data. Everything already exists there, but that does not mean you can get the answer. You need to be compatible with the answer, as with everything else. And as you will see now shortly, this is the same way the brain and consciousness works. You need to be compatible with the answer to be able to receive it. So here I'm asking, how do you make the computer compatible with the answer? And she says, as with everything, the address is what makes you compatible. That address is the data. The data also triggers a chain of thoughts or processes that become compatible with the answers. As does a brain. As does a brain. Because we have to remember here the quantum computer works in a very similar way the brain does. As does a brain. They work the same way as brains do, also bringing out things from the ether depending on its frequency of thought, that is, its ideas. So in the case of our brains, our ideas, frequencies of thoughts, are the data that we present into the ether, and then based on that we are able to pull the answers from it. So here I'm asking, how do we make the brain compatible with the answer? Or is that even in a brain or in my consciousness? Or both, probably, one working through the other. And she says, everything is frequency, and like frequencies tend to attract each other. So if you are holding a thought, whatever you are thinking about will come to you eventually. That is a harmonic of a frequency, meaning it is a sequence of frequencies that form something else. Eventually, at least, it will come to you. If you are not getting it yet, in this case we are talking about pulling answers from the ether, it means that you are not too compatible yet with what you seek. In 3D, even in 5D, it does take time and effort. And here I'm asking, do you have all the answers you seek all the time? And she says, no, I do not. And those times when she does not is when she feels off. She's explaining here, when I'm feeling off, when I am worried or tired, I do block my answers. I need to get into the flow of things. When my flow is altered, then I simply cannot connect to whatever I connect with to get my answers. Okay, that's it. That was a short conversation. I think it was very important to clarify this because otherwise some people might think, like I got that impression, that those computers can access the ether, and from there they can get any types of answers because everything exists is in the ether. So it gave me that impression that they are quite omnipotent, but I think that wouldn't be right, and that just would just give them too much of a godly status, I would say. So I'm still glad that there are some limitations to them, but in the same way our brain also has the limitation. Just because in the ether there is everything, and in theory we could access everything there's still that compatibility match that needs to be fulfilled. We need to somehow be compatible with the answer. But the good news is that, as she says here, sooner or later what we seek will be given. So don't lose hope that whatever answer is not coming to you, that it will eventually be yours, as I believe all my answers and mysteries will be revealed in due time and due moment. I'm patient. I didn't used to be. Now so many answers got revealed in the last 3 years that I'm still processing them. So I'm okay with whatever not answered questions are still in the process of being revealed. They shall be. So thank you very much for watching. This was fascinating video. I think the next video I'm going to make about Yaskisvaru's different types of powers that she displays, which, by the way, they are not just the powers that belong to her. These are all our powers that we have as soon as we get out of different limiting ideas that we have there in our minds and our subconscious minds. So it's going to be about teleportation, how she does that, some short exercises will be explained, and how she does it, how she crosses the walls, how it feels, etc. So it will be quite fascinating as well. I wish you all the best in these times, holiday times. I know the times are not too easy, but let's keep forward. Let's keep forward as it's the only way and it's the only thing we can do, really. So wishing you all the best. And I will see you in the next video, and maybe in the next year if I don't come out in any video in this year. Okay, thank you and bye.